Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. We are here with a very special guest and a very special unboxing. The Squatch Box, also known as Ali-Reza, is here to share his new watch with us. How are you doing, Ali?
I'm fat and sassy, man. I'm good. I appreciate you letting me do this on your show.
It's a pleasure. I'm glad that one night, you had it slip out of your mouth, so you had to make right on the promise. Um, so let's talk a little bit about what brought you to this purchase. We know a little bit about your scheme, 3 and a G, your particular approach to at least your immediate collection, the watches that you hold
Mhm.
at hand. So tell us a little more about that, perhaps, and we'll go from there.
So, a little over 2 years ago, I came to the YouTube space and for the first time. And at that point, I had 47 or 49 watches. And I knew I wanted to condense because the watches weren't getting wear time. So I decided I was going to condense to one watch per brand and one color, dial color, period. So you'd have like a blue Omega and a white Rolex and, whatever, right? And then I got down pretty close to that, actually. And it was still like 13 watches. I still wasn't wearing the watches. So then I came up with, as you mentioned, like 3 and a G, because if I rotate my watches, like, a watch on Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then, G-Shock every night, um, I felt good about that. I would always wear my watches. I never had regrets. And I decided that made it possible for me to effectively upgrade a watch every year to 18 months. So I'd still get that new watch feeling, right, on a regular basis. The thing that was missing is that because I'm Persian and I live in Florida, rubber straps and leather straps have never done me well. So I was always missing a dress piece. Then the other problem was that I don't wear dress watches often, right? And unfortunately, kind of at my age, sometimes I'm only wearing them to things like funerals, right? So it's like I wanted a dressier watch that was sporty enough that I could keep it as part of my regular rotation. Um, and then I actually had figured out a way with a performer watch that I'd actually apply a little bit of, it's actually what I use on my beard. There's a company called Fable Beard Company that makes beard butter, beard balm, things like that. But I would apply just a touch of their balm to the inside of the leather, and it would make it tolerable for me for 1 or 2 Florida days.
Okay. And
Right.
it's not an additional allergy or sensitivity either. It's just the humidity.
It's just the humidity, yeah, because the humidity would cause my like arm hairs to ball up underneath the strap and stuff like that. It just was annoying, and I
Yeah.
would feel it, right? So, but this actually, it provides enough. You could use Badger Balm or you could use like Lexol, but it provides enough that like with like I have this G-Shock on with a bracelet, right? And
Mhm.
you can do this, right? You do this sometimes just in the day with a sports watch, right?
Yeah.
It allowed me to do that, right? Just kind of loosen stuff up, go back to it. So I enjoyed that, but I still needed a sportier dress piece, and I initially identified a Cartier Drive.
Okay.
And I was like, that's nice. I want this, right? They got it in, the Watches Switzerland got it in for me. I threw it on my wrist. It was the right size, but I just looked at it and I kept saying, that's nice, but it wasn't nice for me. It
Hmm.
just wasn't me. I was like, this is nice, but it's for somebody else, right? So it took for 3-4 months. I really didn't look at dress watches, and then I came across a mark, which I'm sure you're going to mention momentarily, that nobody had heard of. I had asked you, I asked Marco, I asked Bear, I asked Stefan, Swiss. Nobody had heard of them.
Well, if it's okay, I love Bear, so I don't know if he would take this joke well. But if it's a German-speaking brand,
Yeah,
chances are Bear would rather not hear about it.
yeah.
But
But Higgins
I
didn't hear
say
about it
that in
either, right?
jest.
Right. So it was like I went through like the list of everybody. I'm like, well, this is weird. They seem legitimate, but I couldn't find much information on them. And then I saw that they have a history. They were resurrected. Um, uh, and I dug into them. And then one day I just said, "Screw, I'm going to email them," and I did.
Okay.
And I was responded to by their, I guess, social media manager, or brand manager, not social media manager, brand manager, a lovely young lady, Hannah Doppel, and she looped in the I want to call him the founder, right? Technically, I guess he's resurrected the brand, but he's the lead of the company, Robert
Mhm.
Punkhoffer. And they were incredibly gracious and spent a lot of time with me answering questions about the watchmaker, the process, what they're trying to do. So I pulled the trigger. There's no U.S. stockists. I know that they're working on their first. I couldn't see one in person. I couldn't make it over to Geneva for
Wait, did
the
you
show.
say the CEO's name is Funkhauser?
Punkhoffer,
Okay. Well, I
Robert
mean,
Punkhoffer.
like the late Curb Your Enthusiasm character. I thought
Yes, yes,
I
yes, yes,
was
yes, yes.
I was thinking. Did you ever see this particular Cartier driver's watch at all? Did you
Um,
come across this?
I have not. I mean, I came across it, but I didn't actually pay any
Okay.
attention to it.
I mean, it might strike you as dime sized, but I've always thought that these were really romantic pieces because of how the clasp
Yeah,
is actually made to be worn upside down on your wrist. I think I shared this on Patreon just a few days ago as
you did.
well.
Yeah, it was one of the.
It's a
I think
cool
like
cool
3 days
little
ago.
piece.
It's a pretty piece. Yeah. So I was
Yeah,
looking at them,
so
the
going
current
back.
drive lineup, and it just didn't fit me. And then Mr. Punkenhofer, Robert Punkenhofer. I think I call him Punkhoffer more often than not because I have somebody else in my life with a very similar name, but it's Punkenhofer and Hannah Doppel. They spent a lot of time with me, kind of going over it, and they do the expression when you're buying a secondhand watch, right? You buy the seller more than you buy the watch.
Yeah, yeah.
I felt very much that way in this case, right? And it was my experience with Reservoir too, and my result with buying the seller was the same. I love the Reservoirs; they turned out
You
to be
know, I think that's one, just to generalize a little bit, without taking credit away from the particular brand, of course, which we are about to reveal. And I want to thank Bezos for this special unboxing super sticker as well, 199. Thank you so much. Um, but I think a lot of what leads collectors who have satiated their initial hunger for some special pieces for watches they have always wanted to buy, and what makes them gravitate towards a lot of the newer independent brands, whether they are resurrected names or not, whether they are so-called Phoenix brands or not, is this particular kind of personal connection that you can establish with, on the one hand, with a small group of collectors once you get to own the watch and wear it around. And there's a very interesting anecdote about that I want to share. uh, and most importantly, by representatives of the brand who are not, removed from the source by 6 degrees of separation. They can be the CEO, like you said, marketing manager. They can be, maybe next time you are in Europe, maybe you will meet the few watchmakers who put together
yeah.
your particular watch.
Yeah, and when you've been around on this planet as long as we have, right, you know the difference between a salesperson and an enthusiast, right?
Right.
And Mr. Punkenhofer was in his office when we took a Zoom call, and he walked me through his office and the history in his office, right? Um, he was so joyful, like you could just see it and hear it. He was so joyful that he was doing this, and he was also very nervous, as an entrepreneur would be, right?
Yeah.
Um, and that combination of just the sheer joy and the insecurity, it's almost like a childlike exuberance. I was sold. I'm getting a watch from these guys, and it just became a question of which one, because every watch to me that I have, especially my rotation, has to tell a story, right? And this is the Rolexes in my collection, which have now moved out. I really don't like the mark. I did like the aesthetics of the root beer quite a bit, but the story the Rolex has told to me was the bond that I had with my friends, especially JJ Captain, Toyota Mori, those guys. It was a bond, right? All Rolex guys. So I need a story, and this was, a much more intimate discussion than I've ever had with a maker, and it was very convincing, and on
Yeah.
paper also very legitimate. So, Bezos
Ah,
and Bruce, thank you very much.
Bruce G, thank you so much. 199 again, very special unboxing. The to come that much closer now, another resurrected brand in the same way, which has a very storied past, but which is of recent advent as an independent, is Chapek, of course. And the CEO's enthusiasm, even through the video interviews that you might see once every so often online, is infectious.
Yeah.
And he tells this story once every so often, that at some point in time, right before the pandemic, one of his collectors, who was also an early investor, came to him. He was apparently, he went to the restroom in a flight on a plane, and then when he was coming back to his seat, someone grabbed him by the wrist and told him, "You're wearing Chapek." So he went back to tell the story. Something is happening, right? And it's that sort of electric connection. Of course, you can have these sorts of conversation pieces and special additions to your collection with people who are already your friends.
Yep.
But the ability of a timepiece to generate these conversations, sometimes out of the blue, with perfect strangers, and in many ways, this is what this platform is about too, is the power of that human relationship. It's the power of the story that connects people who have had so many different paths in their life, and suddenly it crosses, at least for a moment, even if they will depart.
There's a romanticism about it that you just can't get away from, right? Especially today, where we all have the same like 2 phones, right? So it's definitely, there's a romanticism about it that I really like. And Miss Doppel and Mr. Punkenhofer were just wonderful. I'll be having a further conversation with them next week.
Nice.
And it's I look forward to it. And they did, I guess you can do the brand reveal now if you want. I don't know how you want to handle this, the brand or the box.
I mean, you mentioned it, I think, first. Since you have been talking about it, I'm pulling it up, but you talk a little more about Karl, Suchy und Söhne for us.
Yeah, so the Belvedere, which is the watch that you see in front of them, is their first entry into sports watch. And when you see their dress watch or their table clock from the Waltz series, you can see they inherited, the textures and some of the design. They are an Austrian brand, Swiss-made Austrian brand. The Belvedere itself, the rotor has the Belvedere Palace, on the rotor, which was very, very nice, right? And they have an aesthetic which I think is very unique. And on the Waltz, the second hand is what they call a waltzing seconds hand, right? Which I thought was a very, very unique and refreshing take on how to do a second hand. The brand itself, Mr. Punkenhofer told me that he's still in the process of recovering, all the original designs and all the original history, but he's gotten a lot of help within the Vienna social circles. People have, original pieces from Karl Suchy, and they've gotten a lot of help from that. And it's been very interesting. So this is the Waltz, which is, I have a version of this, which you can buy, but it's not on their website right now. I did have it custom made, slight variant, but it's not a piece unique. They will offer it to other people if people are interested in my configuration. As a voucher movement, there's a fair amount of hand finishing minimum. Now, at one point, I thought I read they are completely hand finished, which is, I think I just had this conversation yesterday with somebody. There's a difference between handmade, like Philip DeFore, right, and hand finished. And the difference is roughly $1 million, right? So,
no, I mean, I recently discovered, by the way, speaking of Vaucher, they don't only make, of course, movements for Parmigiani Fleurier and Hermes most famously, but apparently they reduced-sized Royal Oaks. Those movements are made by Vaucher. Not
really? I didn't know that.
Yes.
Oh, that's insane. I didn't know that.
So clearly, it's a company that has a lot of trust and a lot of respect from some of the greatest makers. We talk I mean, I'm wearing my Gégé Lecoutre, so we love talking about them as a watchmaker's watchmaker. Vaucher as a movement maker pops out from sometimes unexpected places these days. So that they use something made by Vaucher is very already a great sign for me.
Yeah, it's a clearly a very good selection. Um, and I don't know if you so. Do you mind going to the Belvedere so people can see the rotor and the movement on that? Because
Of course.
this is artistry, what they did here. I really love what they did here. Um, with that rotor at the Belvedere Castle.
This is the one that has the castle on the rotor, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Nice. I like the dial textures too, by the way.
and the date wheel rotates, right? So the whole wheel rotates.
Hmm.
Date doesn't rotate within the wheel, so the date, the whole wheel rotates, which is a nice touch. So yeah, that's a beautiful that's a beautiful rotor. I like that.
It's pretty cool.
Right. So, and this is a first sports watch entry. I think it's 8,600 euros or something retail, right?
Okay.
So that was another thing that came into my consideration, right? Because I wanted something in the $10,000 to $15,000 range because it would be, I think, reasonable for me in terms of upgrading a watch that I wouldn't wear all that often. So the Waltz is a little pricier, but the Belvedere is their first entry in the space is certainly not. I think out of it's definitely within band, if not compared to some of its contemporaries, a good value. I mean, because you take, we're talking about Vermont, right? Thomas Broadbent, the rotor building is the Belvedere Castle in Austria.
Right.
Sorry, I saw the question scrolling in the chat.
No. Absolutely.
So if we were talking about Vermont yesterday, right? So Vermont has their first in-house manufactured. It's a licensed movement, not designed, but in-house manufactured movement. And those watches are $8,500, right? And up. Uh, so in this category of this type of, hopefully, and time will tell, quality, finish, and design attributes, it's priced right from my standpoint. Right?
I think since you shared with me what you are, what brand we're talking about, I had focused on Belvedere mostly because we were talking also about kind of related concepts, in Sartori, Billard, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But what I really like about this watch is, again, clearly they wanted a certain price point, so it's not a full bracelet, but it has a very nicely integrated, aesthetically integral design on the rubber band, and the case itself again has those interplay of surfaces, but it's very plain, which draws the attention into the dial, which, as you can see, the chapter ring has this kind of sloping inwards, which of course draws your attention to that center dial, which rotates, and at the end of the revolution, of course, the date jumps to the next one, which is again, it's not something that you see in every single watch, unfortunately.
Yeah. And the sloping, right, that very slight concave, they do that on the Waltz, the dress watch as well.
Okay.
Which made it, aside from the texturing, made it just more sporty. And again, that was kind of like, because the way I look at the Royal Oak, the 15500, 15510s, right, 15400s, is that they are sports watches that can be dressy, but they're not dress watches, right? Not at all. So I wanted a dress watch that was slightly sporty, and this just hit all those markers for me.
So let me switch to Waltz, so we can. It's the Waltz number one.
The Waltz number one is the base model. The version I got is a variant of the day and night.
Okay.
So if you want to see all the specifications, then it's actually on the Waltz number one page. The Waltz day and night is just concentrates on the actual aesthetic change.
This is the New York City version, the black and white cookie.
Yeah, the black and white cookie, right? I just thought it was a very clever, take.
And that's the waltzing seconds, right? You know, that
Yes, the waltzing seconds. Yep.
dial, sub-dial that rotates.
Yeah, and if you look up their the hashtag Call Suhi on Instagram, there are a lot of people that have posted most recently a ton of stuff with the Belvedere, right? But there are a lot of people that have posted pictures of the waltz. There's a lot of good wrist shots out there, and hopefully I will add to that here in the next few days. But I quite literally I had to resist the urge to take it out, spend a lot of time with it because I made a promise. I intended to keep my promise, but I knew if I had
Thank
just
you.
opened the box, it would have been game on. I would have been like, screw it, click, 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 and everything. So
Nice. How did how long did it take for them to create the watch for you and get it to your hands?
so my timing was, I mean, maybe fate inspired. I had made the request right at the beginning of when they were going to do another run because these are very limited runs, right? It's a very
Mhm.
small company, so I think Hannah Doppel told me it would be 4 to 6 weeks or something, and it was I think like a week and a half later it was done. Right, the longest pole in the tent was FedEx getting confused on import.
Always,
Right,
always.
that was the longest pole in the tent. And the whole time, and again, they're small, so I work with them directly. They don't have a stockist in the U.S. yet, although I know they're working for it. They're working on it. Um, and I'll let them speak to that. I won't speak to speculation there. Uh, Miss Doppel and Mr. Punkenhofer were in touch with me the whole time, right? And I had, aside from the special requests that I made for the watch itself, I had big wrists, and I knew right off the bat the strap wouldn't fit. So they are working on, I wanted factory straps. They're working on 2 pairs of factory straps for me, which will come later. But in the meantime, after tonight, I'm going to throw on, some longer straps I have just to get some wrist time with it. But like
Nice.
every dress watch, the Cartier Drive was the same thing. It was like I can't even get it to the first hole on my wrist. Um,
So shall we?
sure,
Shall we?
let's do it.
Let's take a look. Let's take a look.
All
I
right,
will.
so the presentation box is like a heavy um, cardboard, right, with a magnetic closure. The sides have a nice bluish purple velvet texture to them.
Royal
Um,
royal blue.
Royal blue, there you
Prussian
go.
blue.
Prussian blue. You're not wrong, actually, right? So, and then it is just a magnetic enclosure. The presentation inside, which is as far as I've gotten, is the papers are on the top, and then there's a uh, single watch roll that is Carl Suhi branded, and
Ah,
you get these are, I think, in the age of cards, these are actual papers. So you get the actual paper with a limited run, and I won't keep that on the screen too much as not to further dox myself. But it's this is serial number. It's 20 of 30 for this run. The date of purchase, manufacturer, the reference number, and then we have the whole inside is that same velvet texture in the Prussian blue, the single watch roll, and let's get this. The inside of the watch roll is also branded gold sealed with Carl Suhi. And here we go. Let me give him a little wiggle to see if I can get just a little charge. So that wandering seconds. Yep, wandering seconds is moving a little bit. And here we go.
nice.
My lighting is not great, but you can see the wandering seconds rotating, right?
Yes.
This is horrible lighting and just a webcam, right? You see the reflection of the browser and whatnot in there, but it is the texture, which you can see on the pictures, is clear to the eyes, which is actually one of the things I was worried about because you get macro shots, and the sapphire is very, very slightly domed. You get the I haven't removed any of the stickers. Get all this off, and oh, that's just gorgeous.
Yeah, I love a nice micro rotor caliber for sure.
It is steel. They do offer this in yellow gold as well. I'm not sure about white gold. This one is steel, but I effectively wanted it's the Waltz Day and Night with, instead of having the DLC coated black case, I wanted in the steel case. Right. And man, it's 41.5 mil. The lug to lug is just 2 mils bigger than that. And I wish, God, I hopefully I'll be able to get good pictures. There's obviously good pictures on IG and their website, but that curvature on the edge is just gorgeous, and it's exactly what I wanted. I wanted a sportier dress watch. It just feels perfect in that sense. So let me unscrew the crown here.
I love everyone is talking about the cookie aspect. Mouth watering with smell of vanilla chocolate icing. Great stuff. It's the black and white cookie from Seinfeld. Good looking watch. Congrats. Wear it in good health, man.
It is the black and white
one.
cookie, like all over the world. In Publix down here, you can get the black and white cookie, and it's definitely all right. So I'm going to set it intentionally kind of 10 and 2, just so nothing's obscured.
Well, I mean, to be fair, again, not to be a New York supremacist about it, but it's a black and white cookie is a New York thing more than anything. You don't see it as much all over the place, whereas in New York, it's in every bodega, it's in every corner store, it's in every little joint, every cafe.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's absolutely, and it's different when you have it in New York. It's different, especially since so many different people make it. But that's so well finished. The sizing's perfect. The movement sizing also is perfect for it. If you wouldn't mind pulling the website up for it again, the you can see it's just I just don't have a great camera setup. Hopefully, pictures. No. You can see the texture that I can see with my eyes in the pictures on the website very, very clearly. Right, and that texture is it's perfect. Right, the vertical and the horizontal lines, it's perfect.
And again, I like the fact that they have clear distinctions between the lines, even though there are identifiable similarities as well. Those striped patterns, which I'm guessing is some kind of guilloche. I don't know whether they use stamping, CNC, or whatever else. But yeah, and they have some tone on tone versions as well in black and charcoal.
No, that's black and black. The tone is because of the contrasting directions.
Okay. It's
so that's actually, so in my hand, and this is one thing, this is where I wish I was like, I could take photographs like Burbing Hard or some of these other guys take great photographs. In my hand, when I look at it dead on, dead on, it looks completely flat. There's no texture whatsoever, except on the Wandering Second style, which is rotating in the light. But if I move it in any direction, I'll say guilloche, well, we don't know, it could be stamping, right? The guilloche then just changes the color and the texture. You can see it like instantly. And because one half is vertical and one half is horizontal, there's this moment where one half looks matte and flat while the other side looks textured until you move it just a little bit further. It just plays so nicely. I really, really do enjoy just looking at it. And it's, those curves make it sportier, and the indices are very small, very tight. They look bigger in, this picture than obviously in real life. They're very small, very tight, beautifully done. And then the the griffins that are part of the Carl Suchy and Söhne logo are well done. And in the black and white, the griffins also they invert the black and white. So yeah, man, this is pretty. This is very pretty. And the back end, that business end, is It's really nice. Has a nice, very nice alligator strap on it. Unfortunately, just a little too small for me. So they'll send me the longer straps, but until then, I'm going to swap it out. Um, a very, just a clasp, not a deployant. But this
The
was Captain.
to celebrate the stripes, Captain 11.11.
Yeah,
Uh, nice. Two Face works well. Congrats, Ali-Reza. Break it down, YB. Kisses and hugs, Cappy. Thank you so much, man.
thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Cap.
And Thomas has a great point here for the bicolor dial. It's like the new version of the tuxedo dial, right? Which would have basically a ring of black on silver, for example. That's it's
Yeah.
a good way to put it.
Yeah. It's actually, they told me this story about how it came to be. What I guess Miss Doppel was sending out something like a catalog, and for the image on the front, they just had two versions of the Waltz, like just split in the
Hmm.
middle, like a graphic. And then people said, "Well, why don't you make that?" So they did,
Right.
right? And
Well,
it came out so nice.
I think somewhere they were saying we want to thank uh, Conopassion for this inspiration. Yes, we would like to thank our trusted
Yeah,
dealer,
that's
Conopassion Paris, for inspiring us to create this daring watch. Conopassion is like a very established dealer of a lot of independent brands, like one of the first to carry H. Mose, for example. Um, and interesting connection. So the owner is Laurent Picciotto, and he is the father of Eleanor, who works with Revolution now. So
okay.
that,
Oh,
that's
yeah, yeah.
that's Conopassion. Yeah.
Give us a nice wind. It's
Bruce
yeah.
Lee
This
says,
wandering seconds. I love that wandering seconds.
I always appreciate the unique concept. I think that's a brilliant idea.
And no date, which the more watches I can get with no date, the better, as far as I'm concerned. And date on dress watches is always I think a faux pas, but that's just me. Oh yeah, this I love how this plays in light, especially I'm my silver die Royal Oak, the way it plays in the light. I love that.
So on, as you said, at least for now, yours is one of one. Will they make a run for it, or will they just reproduce it for others who want it, or did they already make the run that way?
Miss Doppel has said that they will, if people request it, they will make it in this
Okay,
configuration. As far as I know, this is the only one right now.
nice.
But and I actually did ask. I said, what would it cost to make it a piece unique? But that was more, my excitement speaking. Um, I can totally see myself going back to them uh, for another watch, especially it's an investment, because it's still 15,000 US all said and done, right? Um, for this particular one with the two extra sets of straps, so I could see myself going back to them if I really settle into this and asking for a precious metal, version, right? And maybe one other slight modification. But I cannot for the life of me remember the watchmaker's name. But I mean, he did a great job, and as far as I know, he's hand assembling everything they are producing right now. And good bones, the Vachia movement, it's has good bones. The strap is a nice, good quality too. Like this is a good quality leather strap, alligator
Yeah,
leather strap.
and I think they were saying on the page there that they basically include both a plain leather strap and an alligator, or is that optional? Is that what you choose?
The I think by default it ships with just a plain leather strap. I requested alligator all the way around.
Nice.
Um, so yeah, that's that also was another checkbox that FedEx had issue with.
Yeah. I was I was at So Philips has a new location now in Los Angeles, which they opened just a couple of months ago, but they had the pieces from their upcoming New York auction. I was lucky enough to hold one of the only two Roger Smith pocket watches, so I'm still kind of buzzing inside from that. But beyond that, um, they were they were themselves puzzled that one of the watches actually made the trip with an alligator strap on it into California. It kind
Into
of snuck.
California.
But yeah, otherwise they use these, mostly nubuck kind of straps, like neutral leather straps.
But I'm
Yeah,
a Florida man, so it had to be alligator. So, Lou Pellegrino, to answer your question, so if you look at the black and white on the screen, you'll see that it's black DLC coated, and I requested it in just the straight stainless steel. I like the contrast of that better. And I think I definitely made the right choice. I mean, I hope they produce this because I just think I think it's aesthetically just much more pleasing.
I think, again, one, the fact that they honored your request, and two, this is also a better reflection of what you had in mind, when you were
Yeah.
saying that you want something that has some sportier aspects, but you want the look of a dress watch, and it's kind of an everyday watch as well because it's in stainless steel, so you have less, I guess, less worries about banging it about a little bit, being a little more careless with it. I think a precious metal piece, no matter how casual you are, it makes you feel a certain way
Mm-hmm.
on your wrist. So it's hard to wear it the same way
I
as a
totally agree.
stainless steel piece.
I totally agree. So I don't, when I get on, by the time I get to this point in the evening, I've taken off, I wear 2 rings, right? And I do wear some bracelets. I know JJ doesn't like beaded bracelets. I have some beaded bracelets, but my main ring is platinum. My other ring's rose gold, right? I don't wear yellow gold, just not for me. My chain is a big, heavy 9mm Miami Cuban link, but white gold. I don't care that people don't know that it's, they look at it and they could think it's silver. I really don't care. The platinum and the white gold, I know what they are and I feel the weight, right? And I like that. Um, so, and I can't speak highly enough of just the buying experience because you're buying from a maker that doesn't have a stockist. You're wiring to them overseas, right? They were very precise in all the wire information.
Mm.
They were very communicative. When FedEx held on to it, Miss Doppel got right on top of it. And the box came. I've actually had this situation overseas where they put the box basically just within another box. The box takes a lot of damage. Now this isn't a wooden box. It would have been a shame if it took damage, but it came pristine, right?
Yeah. No,
So
packing boxes is an art. Like, I was over the last week, I ordered some cheap pot from Amazon twice, and it broke in the same way in on both deliveries. So, and they usually do a great job. Don't take me wrong. They have a lot of those, what do you call them?
the air
Like
bubble,
air packs. Yeah.
air packs, yeah.
REG, thank you. 250 Canadian. Wonderful to see the Squatch, and wonderful to see you too, REG. Nice to see you, man.
Yeah, so they did a good job. I mean, all the way around. I'm very, now that it's been officially, I've taken the stickers off. I held off for a few days to make sure I fulfilled my promise.
Thank you. I appreciate
I
that.
will pop the spring bars, throw on a strap that fits.
And it's
Until I get
it's a pull tab, I'm assuming, right? Is it a pull tab on the back?
good question. I already put it back on here. I didn't even look. Let me take a look. It is no, it's not.
Okay. Well, it will just need a quick tool, and
Yeah, I can handle it just fine. I'm confident based on the conversations with Mr. Punkenhofer that all of those little refinements, because they're in the process of just trying to resurrect the brand, right? For watches, and again, like, no, I was honestly shocked nobody had heard of them that I asked, right? I was honestly shocked.
I hadn't. And I have a particular affinity to German speaking watches, so to speak. I'm a huge fan of Habring 2.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm a fan of A. Lange and Söhne, that can even go unsaid, I guess, at this point. um and and anything and everything in between. A lot of what comes out of Glashütte, but also from Pforzheim, Benzinger. I'm a huge fan. They also have some interesting offerings right at this price range, especially with their new edition that happens to be a German Austrian collaboration. Their GAP1
Oh yeah,
piece.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so, and I hadn't heard of them. I didn't know of them historically either, which is my shortcoming. Um, but I appreciate them as a brand, and I think they have a couple of hits. Apparently, they have a skeletonized version of it that
Yeah.
uses the same pattern as a grill, which is pretty ingenious.
Yeah, they've got some interesting things, and the Belvedere. I think for the first pass at a sports watch, I think the Belvedere is a really good take. Um, and you can't afford to take many risks at their scale, so
Right.
I certainly appreciate it.
Honestly, again, I like the fact that they offer something new. They start with a quality movement. I think the case design, at least, doesn't look like everything else. The dial is certainly very unique. I like the fact that they have that equally sliced um, design carried out to the loom of the hour hand as well.
Yep.
So
And the
establishing a
hands
visual
themselves are the
signature.
towers from the castle, right?
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I thought this was a very clever take and still very Vienna.
And I like the jumping dates that makes a full revolution during the day. I like the sloping inwards of the chapter ring that adds some dimensionality to the dial, which could have been otherwise. If it weren't for that traveling date and the sloping chapter ring, it could have been a pretty dull watch. And there are actually, even among the OGs, like the Aquanaut, for example, there are a lot of dull watches in
Yeah.
in this category, and this is certainly not one, whether one likes it or not.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think I'm so far I'm impressed. I'm looking forward to see how the brand grows. Um, and I'll get it's going to get a lot of wrist time here coming up here in the next few months. And I'm not easy on my watches, so I will report back if
Nice.
there's any issues. Um, I look forward to it. I really like it. P Cars, thank you for coming by. You know what? Before I forget, I keep meaning I need to
Thank
follow P
you.
Cars on Instagram.
P Cars, 1970, $9.64. Hello and nice piece, Ali-Reza. Congrats. And Bruce
Thank you
G
very much.
says, shout out to Zinn. Absolutely. Shout out to Lang und Heine as well. All these great brands. No doubt. And Zinn, Zinn is one of the OGs, to be fair. They have a very specific niche, and they offer a lot of value for tool watches, for sure.
Yeah, I did have a Zen. I had the liquid oil filled,
Mm.
and I had a friend of mine in the UK get it from. God, it's been 4 years, 5 years gone. I can't remember the name of the sockets, but it was a version where uh, they moved the crown to the opposite corner. It was a version that was only available in that UK stockist.
Mm.
Um, I really did like that watch. So, but
And what happened to it?
it didn't fit in my downsizing. It
Oh,
didn't fit my downsizing, right? And that was one of the watches I wasn't willing to give my daughter. So my daughter now has like a 13 or 15 watch collection. And I've told her at this point that's it. She's just not going to keep inheriting watches. She needs some need to move out. I like Thomas Robert Mule. I also like Tatima. Um, I like some of the watches from Tatima as well. So there's a lot of watches in that region of the world which I think are underrepresented here. But yeah, so that's it, man. I kept my promise. I got a great watch out of it. You and you, Stefan, Marco, Cap, JJ, a lot of people deserve credit for uh, uh, encouraging me to, or giving me reassurances that this wasn't just a kind of a poorly made, watch. I didn't know about the AP, the having Washington movements and some of their smaller models. That's interesting.
No,
So
I'm a huge fan of Vaucher. You know that it's. I have great respect for Michel Parmigiani to begin with.
yeah,
I know that they won't go into cooperation with just about anyone, but it's part of that Sandoz Foundation ecosystem that was built in Fleurier. And of course, that ecosystem is enriched and even taken to the next level by the existence of Chopard LUC there, by Beauvais in a different way. That's a very, very interesting kind of an alternative uh, town that suddenly sprung up. Of course, it is part of a very horologically rich part of Switzerland, no doubt about it. Uh, but they have made um, heaps and bounds in the last years, and they also again they supply Parmigiani Fleurier. Basically, the entire line is Vaucher movements. They supply to Hermes. Anything that is built, anything self-winding at this point is basically built on the 1834, I want to say. 1837,
that was
sorry.
actually something I looked up, the 5401 that's used in the Waltz, and I couldn't find. I found plenty of watches that use the 5401, but there wasn't a better value proposition like that. So that was another thing that it's not inexpensive.
No, it's again, it's I think that's where everything starts. If you build a brand like this, without honoring what really beats at the heart of it, without starting with a decent caliber, I think it would have been a great injustice. And sometimes we overvalue certain aspects of watchmaking because of catchwords that are manufactured by marketing teams more than watchmakers themselves. In-house is one of those catchphrases that does not automatically mean better. And imagine what it would have cost them and how that would be reflected on the price tag if they were to build the same sort of horological um, ecosystem in Austria, around Vienna, so on and so forth. I mean, they could have, I guess, gone and leached off Habring 2 in Klagenfurt and environs, but they have gone their own way, obviously, and I think they are better for it because again, Habring 2 is very specialist and even more focused on that sort of small production. So I'm glad they went their own way. I'm glad
Yeah,
they have that cooperation between Vaucher and Vienna, and
yeah.
this
And
is a great.
I really would have looked at the watch completely differently. I have no issues with workhorse movements like Etta and Salida. Just don't, or Seiko, SH35, right? No issue with them. But I would have looked at the brand completely differently. I would have looked at the dial as a gimmick, right? If that's the direction they went into. So I do appreciate that they didn't. And I think in the Belvedere, I think they use a Dubois de Praz movement.
Mhm.
Also not a slouch, right? Um, so out of the gate, two great choices, and I wish them the best. I look forward to being a customer in the future.
That's very cool.
So I think we're coming up on the hour. I think you have a show in 10 minutes, right?
Yes, and we can migrate there. You don't necessarily have to follow, but it would be an
I will
honor and a
follow for a little
pleasure
while, but
for
I
me.
am running. I definitely am running on adrenaline at this point. I encourage, anybody who's in the chat to cut over and catch tonight's reviews as well. I really do appreciate it, man. I said to other people fairly recently, I think it was just the other day, that my horological education, right? A lot of it comes from just spending time with now with the Patreon, which is just an additional reading benefit. But just when I can catch a show and just learn about all the auction pieces and the provenance and the history, and it's given me a new appreciation. It also, lets me take risks that I wouldn't otherwise take. So, thank you everybody for the super chats. And like I mentioned, if you haven't checked out his Patreon, it's worth at least considering, because he delivers on his promise. You get a message every day with interesting watches to look at and a little bit of commentary, and he will answer your questions.
Thank you so much, Ali. Again, you do a lot of PR for me that I don't even have to ask for. So I really appreciate that.
JJ,
JJ, thank you so much. P Cars, thank you for the super chat. RAG, Captain, and of course Bruce G and Basils. Thank you so much, and thank you, Ali, more than anything, of course, for sharing this very special watch with us. It is for now one of a kind in stainless steel case, the Waltz #1 Night and Day by Karl Suchy und Söhne.
I will not be offended if people rush out and buy it. I think they deserve the attention. So if you want it in that steel case, by all means, drop them a line. They will deliver.
Amazing. All right, guys. I will see you in the late show, I hope. I just posted the link here. So if you would like to follow us, we will do some watch talk. Maybe we'll also look at some auctions. I'll just let the conversation flow. All right. I'll see you.
Thank you very much. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Thank you, Ali.